like a third?
Sure. I could do a dog sled.
Why are we doing this?
You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
All right, guys, we are live.
Hi.
Hey.
Oh,
Hey.
we have 2 Rogers. That's incredible.
We've always had 2 Rogers.
There have always been 2 Rogers. And
Roger,
I've always been at war with
Roger
these
now
days.
in
I've
stereo.
never been at war with myself, even in the kind of psychological, psychiatric
I'm not
sense.
sure I believe that.
Man.
There is no duality. There is just
feel
me.
There's only Zod.
Oh.
Well, that just ended the conversation.
So
Yeah. Not at war with yourself. Well, how nice for you.
I'm moving into a new house in September.
Yay!
Sarah's getting a new dog.
Oh, so it went through.
Kid.
Wait, I didn't realize. Nice.
Which one?
Crap. I need to grab some water, so I'll ask.
Oh, sure.
Patrick's like, whatever. I had a
Are we going to
baby.
listen for like large, loud exclamation?
That's the PR in Patrick. He asks a question and leaves, so you have to.
I'll
but
take
I
the
mean,
answer off here.
But like a very, honest question is like, what happens when I do this? Like, does the dog, like, there's cables everywhere? It's like, I'm like,
Well, it depends on the dog.
yeah.
If the dog's mellow, you might be able to just let him in
Just-
their room with you.
Just
You know.
have him kind of
On the other hand, if it's like Ray, I had to put her in the kennel during the show for a while
yeah,
because she was a little rowdy. But now she's just upstairs on her own. She's fine. So
sure, yeah.
took a while.
If the mailman comes, an issue.
Which house?
Otherwise,
Which house?
What?
Tom, which house did you buy?
Oh, I bought we're buying a house. Yeah.
No, but you had like the one that you.
Oh, it was the first one Eileen saw that she fell in love with, and I did too right away. But that it had gone to someone else, then it fell through.
And then it fell through, yeah.
And
And,
so
then you were like, did we really fall in love with it?
No, Eileen was never in doubt.
Oh, okay. So you got it.
Yeah. And now it's
Amazing.
time to do the show, and don't forget to ask me about it after the show.
George
Oh,
R. R.
good.
Martin
After
at Tom's house,
Yeah, he'll be coming over to
things.
my house to help me move.
Oh,
provided he's in
Lots
good
of
health.
lemon cakes and trenchers. All right. You guys ready?
I was born ready.
Yes. Boom.
In a while.
Been a while. Sarah, would you mind reading line 3?
I would not.
All right, here we go. 3, 2.
Thanks to everyone who supports Daily Tech News Show directly. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/supports.
This is the Daily Tech News for Tuesday, August 21st, 2018 in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, soon to be perhaps Studio K9, I'm Sarlene.
Whoa.
Oh, wait a second.
I know.
What?
I just want to keep you on your toes, Patrick.
Yeah, you said soon, maybe. So we don't know for sure. You might be teasing us with untruthful facts. So,
It is not fake news. It will be Studio K9 tonight. Whether or not that's a good idea,
The cats are
It's
not leaving, though, so it'll
TBD.
be feline and canine.
it'll be Studio Zoo.
Studio Animalia.
Well, I can't really top that, so I'm just Patrick.
He's Patrick Beja. And Roger Chang is here as well. Hi, Roger.
Hello, everyone.
Let's start with a few tech things you should know.
Tinder announced Tinder U exclusively for college students. It's a version of the app. Users must have an .edu email address and be geolocated on a college campus to participate. This is in the US. The service will roll out to iOS devices at 4-year accredited not-for-profit schools in the United States.
So this is a way to get their app usage in that segment of the population to increase significantly.
Kind of like
They
how
want better numbers.
Facebook started back in the day.
Yeah, I feel this is a little bit different.
Perhaps.
Maybe not, though. Google is redesigning the Google Fit app for Android and the Fit section of the Wear OS app for iOS. Google says it used recommendations from the American Heart Association and the World Health Organization to create 2 new rings users will be encouraged to close. Move Minutes tracks all kinds of movement beyond just steps, and Heart Points tracks activities that raise the heart rate from brisk walking to gym workouts.
Yeah, sounds very familiar to Apple Watch users.
Hmm.
BBC reports that the district of Kannur in India's southern state of Kerala, the same state that's been dealing with the flooding, is holding classes to teach children about fake news on WhatsApp. The top official in the district, Mir Muhammad Ali, told the BBC they decided to teach children because the parents appear to believe everything they see on a phone is true. They figured if we get to the kids, maybe that'll help diffuse the situation a little bit. All right, let's talk a little bit more about HTC, Patrick.
Well, they announced it's their adapter to make the Vive VR headset wireless will be available for pre-order September 5th for $300. Shipment begins September 24th. If you have a Vive Pro, however, you'll need a $60 compatibility pack as well, which includes a connection cable, foam padding, and attachment device. A sensor plugs into your PC's PCIe card slot, which broadcasts to the adapter, which HTC says should get 2.5 hours on a charge. VR gamers looking to cut the cord with their PC will be able to pre-order it from September 5th, as we said. This seems like an expensive device on top of an already expensive device, especially if you bought the Vive Pro, which is more recent and more expensive than the regular Vive, and for which you need an additional compatibility pack. However, I mean, all this is true, but the number one complaint that everyone has about VR headsets is the cables are a nightmare. And sure, you'll still have cables, but at least they won't be entangling you between you and your PC. So I can see this seeing some purchasing happen.
Nick with a C says, how's this better than a wireless HDMI link plugged into your regular card? And the fact of the matter is that's because you need more than just HDMI plugged in on this thing. So this makes all of it wireless, which is helpful. Well, HTC Vive, not the Pro, but the HTC Vive costs about $500 now. I think it's down
Something like that, yeah.
Down from its original $700 or so. So yeah, we're back to if you want a wireless VR headset, it's going to cost you $800. Plus, you have to already have a PC that's compatible with it. Not cheap at all, but promising that, I mean, I think one of the things that holds some people up is the idea that they've got all this tethering and all this wiring, and if they can't just leave it plugged in, it's a pain to have to reattach every time. So being able to just have a terminal in the PCIe card slot and pick it up when you're ready to play does make it a lot easier. I don't know if it makes it $300 easier.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is, aimed at people who already have it, who have tried it, who kind of like it, but feel it's a pain to replug every time or the cables. So I don't think it's going to be sold with the device initially, but people are going to get back to it thinking, well, I'm already $500 in. What's another $300 to make it more usable? And convenience is important, and this makes it a little bit more convenient.
Yeah. And also it takes care of the power, which is another positive / negative, right? Because now you can only use it for 2.5 hours, and maybe it won't quite last all 2.5 hours all the time. I'm curious. You can buy multiple batteries though and swap them out. So
yeah, I don't think most people will use a VR headset for more than a couple of hours at a time anyway. So that kind of works out okay in the end.
If you've been using your VR headset then more than 2.5 hours, consult another battery.
Let's talk about reputation scores. Remember that old yarn? Facebook has been testing assigning users a reputation score of 0 to 1. This is over the past year. The score is just one measurement among thousands that Facebook uses to evaluate reports of problematic content. For example, if a user continually reports stories as false, that then Facebook decides are not in fact false, then that user's reliability score would be lower, and reports from that user will weigh less in deciding whether to have third-party fact checkers review a post.
Yeah, and it's not that Facebook decides they're false. It's we refer them to the third-party fact checkers, and they say no, that story is not false. And what they're running into a lot is people using the report button punitively to say, I don't like this.
I don't
story.
like this, rather than it's true or false.
Exactly.
It's I don't agree with it. Which is, when I first heard the story this morning, I was like, is it like a clout score? Based on your popularity? And no, it really has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with how many people follow you or how active you are. It's more of, yes, can Facebook determine that you are perhaps intentionally trying to bury things that you don't like rather than their truthiness?
And it's an internal thing used among many other indicators to help streamline the process of fact checking. I think a lot of people can easily overreact to this story because sure, slippery slope. Maybe they'll start using it for other things. Maybe they'll make it public, but they have not at this point done either of those things.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really clever way of dealing with the quote unquote weaponization of reporting functionalities, which is an issue in every system. If you report people on, for example, Twitch chat or things like that, there are a lot of instances of where a reporting functionality is used for griefing. So this mechanic could be used to address that, and that's quite interesting.
All right, here's another one that it's easy to overreact to. Microsoft, acting on a court order, has gained control of 6 domain names created by a group that is variously referred to as either Fancy Bear or Strontium or APT28. The group is generally believed to be a Russian group. The group created fake versions of 3 U.S. Senate sites, Microsoft's Office 365 site, and the sites of the International Republican Institute and the Hudson Institute. And in all cases, the sites were doing spear phishing. They would try to get users to enter their username and passwords because they didn't realize they weren't really at the Microsoft Office 365 site or the International Republican Institute site, and then steal them. It doesn't appear that they were able to gather a lot of those kinds of usernames, but it's hard to tell exactly. Both IRI and Hudson have been critical of Russia in the past, so even though they're conservative sites, that could be why this group was targeting them. Russian President Vladimir Putin said the government was unaware of the groups and did not, quote, know what this interference entails. So again, it's a tricky line to walk because the Russian government officially never acknowledges that they know anything about this. Everyone in the U.S. usually jumps to the conclusion that they do, but there is no actual proof that they do. What is true is that these groups are attacking. Well, I guess they're not attacking in this case. They're creating sites in order to spearfish and gather information about people in political situations.
It's good. You take it. You started talking, Sarah. You get it.
Well, I just sighed heavily. Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's whether or not Russia, the government has anything to do with this. I don't know. They deny it. Okay. Even if that's fine. The fact that so many people are still they get duped by spear phishing attempts, of which these seem pretty sophisticated. If you're like, this is a Microsoft 365 site that looks, everything looks like it. It's we're all sort of used to that, but
I can create a site that looks like the Office 365 site if you're not paying attention. And
sure, but I mean, are you going to, be targeting a political figure?
Well, but I mean but my point is, it's actually really easy to create these sites. What's hard is to get the right people to be tricked into logging into them, but that's not terribly sophisticated.
I think it's also telling that they would do this because this is not something you want to attack if you're not aiming for something specific. This isn't a money-making scheme. This isn't, this is clearly political or state. Whether or not, as you said, the Russian government we haven't we don't have any definitive proof that they do, but it doesn't seem that you do this.
I mean, I know y'all
unless
are
you have
tempted
political.
to just run into the political storm.
No,
with
that's
this
not
one.
my point. That's
No,
not my
no, I
point. My point is, this isn't to make money. This isn't to extort anything. This is something that you do as a political attack. And so it's probably they're not going to make money out of it. So there's other motivations.
No, I think it's very obvious that because it's Senate sites, the International Republican Institute and the Hudson Institute, what they were going after. Yeah. That is certain. But I just try to be careful to say what we actually know instead of passing what my hunch might be off as actual facts.
Of course. I mean, that's what I was trying to do as well when I was saying this is probably politically motivated. All right. Bloomberg's Mark Gurman and Debbie Wu have sources who say Apple will release new low-cost laptops and a Pro upgrade to the Mac Mini later this year. The laptop would supposedly have a 13-inch Retina display and be an entry-level option as well as an option for schools. So essentially a MacBook Air replacement. The Mac Mini will supposedly have new storage and processor options at a higher price. So a beefed up Mac Mini. Do we need either of those?
Yes. I need a beefed up Mac Mini.
And you're using a Mac Mini for the show on a daily basis, Tom. So I mean, you know the limitations and you know the good and the bad of this machine.
This Mac Mini is 3.5 years old now, I think, roughly. And it shows. It is tired and old. And I would like to replace it. I don't like the idea of having to pay more for it, but yeah.
I've seen it tagged as the Mac Mini Pro somewhere, which
that's a supposition. It's probably a likely name. Yeah.
The more interesting for me is the 13-inch Retina display, which is as I mentioned, probably a MacBook Air replacement, but it's also kind of in competition with the new MacBook, which is a 12-inch at the moment. And is it going to be a little bit bulkier, so still closer to the MacBook Air? I'm not sure. I mean, clearly it's going to be an entry-level Mac, so we know who it's for. But it seems like the form factor and the use case is similar to the new MacBook, would be similar to the new MacBook, which is not so
weird to think that the new MacBook would be lighter than one they would call the Air.
Right.
So maybe they don't call it the Air, or maybe this one ends up being lighter, even though it's a larger screen. And then the Air name still applies. Again, Gurman's very good with leaks, so I don't doubt that it's very likely that Apple comes out with a new laptop and a new Mac Mini. What they'll actually name them, I mean, they may not even decided on that yet. Who knows?
It's possible. I trust Apple has a solid strategy in place when it comes to market segmentation. If there's something we can't deny them, it's that they know what they're doing in that department.
I do recall, and I'm not sure if it was the latest version of the Pro, but there was a MacBook Pro that technically was lighter than the MacBook Air at one point, and everyone was like, how does that work? So, I mean, the sort of the weight aspect of it is important. But I don't think that the Air necessarily is just the lightest. It's more a form factor than a weight thing at this point.
Yeah, and what's more important than the name will be the price. Right now, the MacBook is a little bit expensive for people as an entry-level machine. So having a price that's under $1,000 for a laptop would be a good thing for Apple to be able to present.
Let's talk about Netflix, which told TechCrunch it's testing the iTunes payment method in 33 countries. Specifically, until September 30th, some new or lapsed subscribers in selected markets across Europe, Latin America, and Asia will be directed to Netflix's website to renew their subscription, rather than renew it through iTunes. The test started with 10 countries in June, then expanded to 33 on August 2nd, and plans to run that test until September 30th. Now, back in May, Netflix stopped taking payments through Google Play. So this is not specifically an Apple thing, but it sounds like they're trying to get around that 30% cut.
Yeah, no, not get around, not have to pay it. They don't. Nobody wants to have to
That's what
pay
I
it.
meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get around it, not
Well,
pay it.
get
Yeah.
around. It implies to be like, oh, is there a way to sneak by? They're not even trying to sneak by. They're like, we just won't go through the store at all. Like,
Yeah, it's not as if Apple doesn't understand this is happening, and
Yeah,
Netflix
yeah.
is like, we're
No,
doing
totally.
this.
Yeah,
taking their
and
toys and
actually,
going home.
Apple has addressed this. I think it was last year or the year before, where they changed their subscription model, where they take 30% the first year, but then 15%. But it does beg the question about this. Like, if you have a solid, reliable subscription service that people love and you suspect are going to seek out anyway, do you want to be paying Apple 15% until the end of time because your customers just happen to have subscribed on iTunes instead of through your website? I think if this kind of thing takes hold, we might see Apple reduce it even further for the first year and make it so people like Netflix don't want to bother. Or maybe it will always be worth it for Netflix to bother with this.
I wonder if there will ever be a solution to this problem, because the way I see it, Apple's proposition is we're handling the payment processing, the relationship with the customer, the billing procedure, so that you, the small app developer, don't have to set all that stuff up. You don't have to have a billing department or anything. And in exchange, we take 30% the first year and 15% after that. That seems like a very equitable arrangement if you're a startup or a small
if you're
app
the
developer
small guy, yeah,
and you're getting going. That's awesome. What Apple doesn't want to do is let go of that relationship with the customer when the big guys like Amazon or Netflix come in and say, hey, you know what we have? Huge billing departments and customer relationships. We don't need that, Apple. Let us sell through you and we'll give you a cut, but we're not going to give you 30% the first year and 15% after. And Apple just says, nope, one size fits all. You either play by our rules or you don't play at all. And you make people jump through hoops to figure out how to subscribe to your stuff. And I think what Netflix is doing here is very interesting in saying, we give you a lot of money and we're going to take all that money away unless you come to a compromised position. And Amazon has done it. Voodoo has done it. Google has done it. It is a broken part of the Apple system that I think Apple just needs to come up. I understand it's simpler to have one policy for everybody, but if a company is large enough to have its own billing situation, maybe Apple and that company can come to arrangement about sharing a little bit of that customer relationship and bring down the price so that I don't have to jump to the web to buy my Audible books anymore or renew Netflix.
I completely agree. I think in the grand scheme of things, Apple, it doesn't really matter. It's really small potatoes for them. But
I mean, it is, but at a certain point, they have to look at the balance sheet if Netflix bails on this, and say like, well, okay, how much more could we be making? And I'm sure they do. And right now they're like, not enough. We'll just keep it as it is.
If Amazon didn't make them, buckle.
I don't know. It just, I don't know. Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com.
Hey,
So
why
Sarah-
doesn't Epic do that with Fortnite? If Netflix can do it, anyway. So we'll talk about this another.
Well, they're trying it on Android first. Maybe
Yeah,
that's
exactly,
coming
but-
next. Yeah, interesting. All right. Hey, Sarah found this article on CNBC today. Job search site Glassdoor compiled a list of 15 top employers that say they don't need their applicants to have a college degree for certain positions. Now, you don't always need a college degree for a position, but usually engineers, skilled positions,
It's
you'll
pretty standard. Yeah.
you'll require a bachelor's degree at the very least.
Sure.
Tech companies on this list include Google, Apple, and IBM. And last year, IBM's vice president of talent, Joanna Daly, told CNBC that 15% of her company's U.S. hires don't have a 4-year degree, and that IBM looks at candidates who have hands-on experience, things from a coding class maybe, or an industry-related vocational class when they evaluate their applicants.
It's fair. I was actually excited that Patrick was going to be on today to talk to us about this, just because you've got the international perspective. But I do have a 4-year degree, an undergraduate degree. Never once has anyone ever asked me to, show them my diploma, but it exists. And if it didn't, I probably wouldn't lie about it. But I do know quite a plethora of people, many of whom are more successful than me, certainly financially, that don't have college degrees. I don't consider it to be a real factor. I mean, it's certainly not a factor of smarts and wits and skill. We all know that. But yeah, it seems that companies are realizing as well that it's not the marker of the best candidate anymore.
It's certainly surprising for me to hear this. First of all, I think because in France, at least, we don't have the same standardized 4 years undergrad, then you go on to do your grad school. We have diplomas at I know you also have a 2-year thing, but we have 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and it's starting to be uniformified a little bit across Europe. So 4 years is getting a little bit more common, but I think I didn't realize that you attached that much importance to your 4 years degree. And my understanding is that the first 2 years are really general, and that in France, we kind of cover this a little bit before. So anyway, the bottom line is my image of the US, which seems is extremely inaccurate, was diplomas don't matter all that much, especially in the tech industries at companies like, Apple and probably others. I mean, Google, they did get started in a dorm in a university, and IBM, they are, squares in suits from the history books. But it would seem like companies in the tech sector would think, yeah, bootstraps, people who learn by themselves, who go and hack on the machines they have. It's kind of a little bit mind-boggling that they would require a degree. If you think, yeah, most people, we would ask that they show us their degree. But if we come across someone who doesn't have one and who makes a compelling case for why he has the skills, you can't hire them because your policy is to require a degree. That seems very strange to me. At least it doesn't jive with the image I had of these companies and the US in general.
Well, I think, go ahead, Tom.
No, all I want to say is it's not like there was a rule against it or a law against it, but generally you knew in the US that if you didn't have some kind of post high school education to show, you were less likely to get hired for these higher level positions. So I'm not sure that it's that different in Europe. I know you have a different, and it's hard to compare because it's apples and oranges, right? You have a different collegiate system set up, but I want to know, are you saying that in France, if someone came in and said oh no, I've done a lot of coding projects, but no, I have no degrees, they would be equally as considered as someone who has gone through even a 2 or a 3 year degree?
Well, probably not as equally considered, of course.
That's what's changing, is these companies are now saying sure, sometimes we hire somebody because we can just tell they're really talented and they did something cool, like Kevin Mitnick, hacking, or they created an app. But what they're saying now is, you know what, if you've taken a code course and you can show it that you can code, we're not going to go through the formality of making you show us a community college degree even. We're just going to hire you based on talent. And I think that is a change.
So I guess I was trapped by the headline a little bit, which if I read it, literally, it says they no longer require employees to have a college degree, which I took to mean before that they required employees to have a college degree.
Well,
almost. Yes.
Yeah, on paper, it was, do
think
you
it's
have
that
a degree? I think, one of the things that I've noticed, and it still happens, but, there'll be stories every once in a while of so-and-so got this really lucrative job, but it turns out they lied about their degree, right? Now, you shouldn't lie about anything, right? But that aside, the person lied about it because they're trying to get the job, because the job required them to have a degree that they didn't have. Did they have the skills required to do the job really well? Perhaps they did. So, in my opinion, the less that we, offer, or enforce these parameters that keep people out of jobs that they actually might be really good at, because they may have learned their skills in different ways. And again, yeah, when it comes to coding and, computer science and, there's so many different ways to gain knowledge. I mean, just having interest really is you're probably better off than having a degree in a lot of cases. And I think a lot of companies realize this, and there's less emphasis on the traditional education system, at least in the US.
I guess that's what struck me the most. It's for this industry in particular to value the degree. I understand. I mean, engineers, of course, you have to know your thing. But I would think, and again, that's my view as a European, that they would consider the degree as one of the ways you would get into the position.
When you have a job posting in France and it says, job requirements, we need you to be able to type this fast and know this, degrees are not listed there.
So I'll also reveal something that I've never really had a real job of that kind. I've never applied to jobs. I kind of
you just fell into them.
What happened?
I think I understand.
My jobs, so maybe that's why I never worked in a real company before. So.
But but you've seen job postings, right?
Have I though, Tom?
All right.
Have I ever been interested? No, I've seen them. I just get the feeling that, and again, I might be completely mistaken because of my lack of familiarity with this, even in France. But I have a feeling that, of course, a degree is the most common and most important way you would come by a job. But if somehow you manage to get experience in that field and have had different jobs before and have proven that you have had projects that are relevant to the experience you're being asked, then the degree can be overlooked relatively easily. Maybe I'm wrong. But
Well, I sort of liken it to, okay, so if I'm a trained pianist, right, and I can read music and I'm great at that, and the person who's going to hire me to, run the piano school, right, they're like, yes, all the credentials are great. But what if I'm just good at it in some other way? And I think more and more companies realize that, particularly when it comes to technical work, the 4-year degree or graduate degree or whatever you have, that's a great indicator that you're on the right track, but not the only one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a matter of degrees. It's not
Good one.
I can't help myself. It's not that you couldn't ever hire someone, but the company policies were usually like, well, the job requirement is to have a 4-year degree. That's a weed out factor. Yeah. But you can make exceptions if you can show. And what I think the story is there are way more exceptions being made now. And companies are even saying, you know what, you don't even have to have a 4-year degree. You just have to, there's all these other ways you can show. This is where I actually wanted to go with the story is there's all these other ways you can show your skill now. It used to be the 4-year degree or even the 2-year degree was a shortcut to say, oh, you did train. But now you can say, oh, but I took this coding class, or I took, there's so many other alternatives now with online learning that are certified or at least, trust reliable that you don't have to, that's not the only way to show your skill.
Listen, Tom, all I know is that the founders of most of these companies have dropped out of college. So I think, this is very ironic. Just saying.
It's not ironic. Our subreddit. Thanks everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow.
What's in the mailbag, Sarah?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Tom. Craig. That's how he spelled it with lots of...
That's because
it's Craig.
Starting at Nerdtacular, we began to refer to him as Craig.
Yeah.
Well, Craig has thoughts on Friday's episode. We had our guest Shannon Morse, who was giving us our DEF CON wrap up, and we were talking about hotels and the whole thing. So Craig said, you mentioned that DeepMind is working with Google on using neural networks to control data center cooling. I happen to work on that project. This project was piloted at one of the Iowa data centers and is being implemented worldwide. It's very interesting to see that the AI becomes more efficient at operating the cooling system. And then we need to keep a closer eye on it because it tries to figure out how to save even more energy. But sometimes that's detrimental to the equipment. So then we have to rein it in and tell it, stop doing that. It's potentially damaging equipment. And can you please not be so efficient? To address Shannon's comment about security, it's a valid question, is mainly addressed by the two-factor system in which the actions are compared against constraints that are programmed locally and cannot be overridden remotely due to hardware design.
Awesome. I love that
Really
a member of
cool.
our community that at one point was just motorcycling across America and stopping at Nerdtacular at Salt Lake City, now working inside the data center where they're doing the design testing. That's fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for the info, Craig. Very cool. And also thanks to Patrick Beja for being with us this fine Tuesday.
Almost.
Man.
You were
Almost
just
Wednesday.
thinking Australian. In Australia, it's Wednesday.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Well,
what
actually,
day it is.
for 2 minutes, it's been Wednesday in Finland as well. So
Oh,
you
look
got
at
it
that.
right.
There you go. See, I'm on top of it. Patrick, what's been going on with you since we saw you last?
You know what? Pixels has been going on. That's a gaming show that I do every couple of weeks, but we just recorded an episode with Alicia Judge where we talk about a bunch of things that happened in the past month because I took one episode off. So just go subscribe to Pixels if you're interested in gaming in general and a show that covers that in detail. And should we talk about MVGB or not yet? Let's leave that for now.
Well, yeah, we have graduated the DTNS Labs games to its own feed, and that feed will be posted shortly everywhere, and we'll start talking about it. But keep an eye out for that, the monthly video game briefing.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But for now,
and you will always get the monthly video game briefing in your Patreon feed, along with everything else. And we are still 12 people away from our goal for the month. So folks, get all of the cool membership benefits at patreon.com/DTNS.
We love your feedback as well. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Keep them coming. Honestly, great stuff, everyone. We're also live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC. Find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Back tomorrow with Scott Johnson. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Now, we can reveal that episode, while overseen by producer Roger Chang, was actually produced by Amos.
Woo!
Well done, Amos.
Can we do it like Craig?
Excellent job.
Amos!
But then,
Hey, Tom,
which one do
Roger,
we
Patrick, and
emphasize?
Amos!
Do we emphasize A or mas?
That's your choice, Amos.
I think it's really a matter of urgency, though, right? Because it's if you're trying to get my attention to be Amos, but if you're like yelling at me because they just stole your car or something like that, then it'd be like Amos.
Or
think
it
this
might
one
not be
is
Amos at that
natural.
point. Yeah.
Yeah. We just start doing Anthony Robbins. At that point.
Amos. Yeah, it feels good. I have to go, and I know you have a ton of things to do, guys, but I really want to know what's happening with George R.R. Martin in the house.
Oh, you remembered. All right, real quickly. I was telling the story yesterday about how I fist bumped George R.R. Martin at the losers party for the Hugos on Sunday. Because Laser was nominated for a Hugo, but we did not win, and that was really fun. I don't remember what else we were supposed to continue with that story, to be honest.
Oh, was that
Oh
it?
no, I think he was under the illusion that George R.R. Martin was coming to your housewarming party or something.
Yeah.
No, yesterday. We were supposed to talk about it after the show yesterday.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's.
But then the house. I don't know. Any questions?
Well, can I still crash at your house?
Yes.
Okay, that's the only thing that matters. Excellent.
We'll have even more room.
Patrick's like, I live in Finland. I don't care where you move. Can I crash there?
Yes.
It's all the same to me.
All right. Well,
All
thank
right,
you very
have a
much.
good night.
And congratulations. Did you say you fist bumped? George R. R. Martin?
Yeah.
Or?
I did.
That is pretty sweet as well. I mean, I'm disappointed.
Very
he didn't,
lightly.
like,
So as not to damage
Well,
the man's hands.
yeah, exactly. You should be careful with him. I'm disappointed he didn't like live in your house at some point, but that's
I know.
even
Well,
better.
let's baby steps. We'll get there.
Yes. Okay. All right. Tell him he can take my room if he wants.
Oh no,
All
we
right.
have room for both of you. It's fine.
Oh, all right. Well, I mean, I was looking forward to having him stay in my room, but
Or
fine.
bunk beds, maybe.
Yeah. All right. Bye. Thanks.
Bye,
Thanks.
Patrick.
Bye,
Thank you.
Patrick.
Thanks, Amos. Bye.
MS.
Dark Knight wants to know if Amos is not just named after, but also acts like the Amos from The Expanse.
No,
Neither.
no, he's not as detached.
No, yeah.
It's really hard to
Amos
be
has
that
way
detached.
more affect. This Amos here shows normal range of human emotions.
Wait a minute, where did they go? Showbot.
Yeah, what are we
Showbot.
calling this? What are we calling this? Roger?
One ring to track them all. Get it tracked.
What?
Wait a
I get
minute.
it. I get it.
One
Yeah.
ring. What?
But it's very esoteric, Tom. It's, you have to
What
think
is-
about it for a while.
What is
So
it?
it was
Which
one ring to
story?
track them.
Which story?
Was the
I get the one ring to rule them all reference, but which story does it refer to? Why am I being dumb?
I thought it was the Google Fit.
Oh, the rings.
Track.
I get it now. Okay, thank you.
It's so good. We didn't even get it.
So, well, I
That's
didn't.
how you know.
you-
Well, I was like, I think I know.
yeah, that's a
Wait.
quick hit though. It's hard to name a whole show.
There's also-
Eh.
agree to disagree on a degrees pedigree.
Oh, that's clever.
Ooh. Amos likes that one. Amos
I'm a
approved.
big
Like
fan of
it?
alliteration.
If you like it, I'll send it. We'll make it so.
All right.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Sending it to Amos.
Very clever.
Or
Very
a cookie
clever.
now. Cookie. Right.
Mhm. It's almost poetic. Agree to disagree on a degrees pedigree.
That is my question.
Eric the Hoffaby.
So wait, we were talking about George R. R. Martin, but there was also one other thing we were supposed to remind ourselves to talk about.
House.
The TV show or yours?
The
Oh, it
house?
was the house. My house.
Oh, your house. Okay. Got it.
And we mentioned that.
George R. R. Martin will be moving into Tom and Eileen's new house.
Correct.
That's just what happened. So
It's just the facts.
right.
Don't downgrade me on
They
Facebook.
have a spare bedroom. I mean, it's not that weird.
All right.
So Tom, I have to ask, like, do you have a plan for the transfer of the studio?
Yeah. I will put the things in my car and drive them there. That part probably was obvious.
That's always
yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a
thing, though.
it's a little bit of a different setup. It's a smaller room, although it's still pretty big. And I probably, at least my thoughts right now is I'll keep the bookshelf. So it'll pretty much look the same on the video. Probably a little bit of a different lighting situation maybe. And I've got Brent on email has sort of tentatively agreed to come
Oh,
look it
good.
over and
Yeah.
give me some advice on setting it up. He's the guy who set this up. So.
He'd be at least the right first step
Yeah.
to getting it, similar.
I may need different lights. This Kino Flow that I use, I will continue to use for my green screen, but I may be doing my green screen in the garage. And that's for what I do for Tech Republic. And for this, which is not a green screen, ha ha ha, it's not a green screen. For this, I would do it inside the house in the room.
Now, one would think, I mean, besides the fact that you'd have basically two different studios, the green screen being away from the DTNS situation is a good thing.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Because then you don't have to move stuff around.
I was going to say,
So,
ideally,
yeah.
I can leave the green screen up.
Yeah.
And if I don't use the same light, I can leave the light up. Right now, I have to move the light over when I shoot the green
Right.
screen.
Oh, no wonder it's always slightly off a little bit some days.
Thanks.
No wonder it's
That
so
joke.
You know whose fault that is? The producer of the show.
Well, who heard?
See, Amos? See?
Oh, wait a
Flipping it
minute.
right now.
Roger's like, I deflect. Haha.
Actually, I no, like when you get your lighting, like once you're at that stage, let me know. I was wondering if we could maybe pick up different gels for you.
Oh
so
yeah,
you could have a different feel.
Yeah, for sure. Again, it may not be the same light. I'll have a situation that's more similar to what Sarah's got going on there. I may not even use the same camera.
Yeah. I mean, I have 3 lights on me that I know it doesn't seem like I do because it looks like, oh yeah, it's just, but it's quite well lit actually, but this is cheap. All this stuff is really cheap.
You kind of need 3 lights on you because you have so much backlighting, so much natural backlighting in the room.
And that's going to be the case in my new place too.
Well, we'll have a little lighting party.
Yeah.
Lighting party.
Yay.
Yeah, so the first thing
bring
is
the
to get
dogs, bring the kids.
First thing will be to get the keys to the house. Then the second thing will be to go over there with Brent and sort of figure out like, okay, what's the best recommendation? Then it's get the stuff like the gels and all that, and then set
the
it all
books and the whole, all of the good stuff.
When you get the keys, you and Eileen need to be together and like have that smiling grin, like, oh, we just made it, like they do in the ads. Like, we got the keys to the house.
Well, it's the timing is uncannily kind of perfect because it's almost a year to the day since you changed your studio.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean, it's a little bit before. Yeah. When I came on.
Yeah.
So it was mid-October, right? So once a year.
We should have a Sarahversary.
Yeah, we should.
We should. Maybe my new dog, to be named.
TBN.
TBN will be a part of this. Oh, God.
Do you have any Microsoft cracks down, by the way, not crasks? We should fix that in the YouTube. There's a typo.
Crasks.
We should do you have name ideas yet?
I do. And
you don't have to reveal them if you're not ready. I understand.
I'm going to refrain because I want to make sure that when Doge is in my home and I look at him and he looks at me and we decide that like high five, we're doing this.
Yeah.
The name that I have is still going to work because sometimes you don't know.
Sometimes you look at it and you're like,
you're just not you're not a buddy.
Not a Reginald.
You're not Reginald. After all. So
I really thought I would name my dog Reginald, but when I look in your eyes,
something about you is just not a Reggie.
Not Reggie.
Yeah. Reggie is a very cute name, but that's not the name that I have in mind.
No,
but
I figured I was pretty safe with that one.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure that I have a name. And I'm so excited and I'm really nervous and
it's gonna be great.
I know. Just so much. So for example, last night I was kind of tossing and turning and just as one does, and I'm thinking like I'm tossing and turning because I'm worried about getting the dog. But what if the dog was in this room right now, like whining or barking or needing to go out at 4 a.m.? It's like there's all of these things where I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have to, that's going to be part of my life as of tomorrow. So enjoy the silence, Sarah.
That's the big thing is having the time to take care of them during the day or having someone who can do it, right? Like a dog walker or something like that. That's to me the biggest change that you have to get used to is like, oh, I have to at least let you out, twice a day to do your stuff. And I have to feed you.
Right.
I have to keep you from eating the cat food.
Well, one thing we have to do
exactly like all that stuff is
let the YouTube stream go and tell the rest of the listeners to listen to us on the audio Patreon feed.
Thanks, video folks. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Audio listeners, stick around.
Stick around.